All right, let's get started. It's 5 o'clock, time to prepare dinner. This recipe should take you about 20 minutes, depending on how long, if you have pre-cooked chicken or uncooked chicken, and how much chopping, slicing, and dicing you have to do, and how fast you are at it. So I'm cheating a little bit tonight. I had in my freezer some pre-sliced bell peppers. Whenever I have extras, I always slice them all up, put them in the freezer because I never tend to use them before they go bad. So I save them in the freezer and that way I have less waste. I also had pre-sliced onions. So the first thing you want to do if you're going to make fajitas is slice these things up and get them in the right size pieces. For fajitas, I like to keep them long like this because then it makes kind of a nicer burrito. This chicken has been grilled. It probably still could use a little bit of cooking, but that's fine because we're going to do that. I'm opening my cans of black olives because we love black olives on our pretty much anything. But on fajitas, it's really nice for an extra topping. So I'm going to do that. And I also have here, and I'll drain the juice off of them so that we can just use them for topping. I've got some black beans that I'm also going to use when I serve the fajitas. I'll put them in the tortilla. I've got some shredded cheese. I've got salsa, and instead of sour cream, I use Greek yogurt. Sour cream tends to get moldy in my fridge. There's only 2 people who live in this house currently. And yogurt is useful for lots of other things for breakfast. So the beans come with a lot of liquid in the can. So the first thing I'm going to do is pour them in my strainer. And let's see if I can get this camera, my secondary camera, over to the sink. I have a strainer. I'm going to pour the beans in there, and then I'm going to rinse. There's nothing wrong with the liquid on the beans, but a lot of times it'll have some extra salt and things, and that affects the flavor of your dish. And it just makes it really difficult to figure out how much salt to use, and since everybody has a different preference. So those are all rinsed. Just gonna let them drip dry there while I go about preparing the rest. And the other thing that I like to use, of just sort of a secret ingredient, is these chipotle peppers. If I have fresh jalapenos, I'll use those. But these give a nice smoky flavor to the dishes. Now, this can is a little bit dangerous. It tends to tempt you to use the whole can. These peppers are very hot. And even in my spice-loving family, if I use more than 2 or 3, the dish is too hot to eat. So you have to resist the temptation to use all of them and just get out 2 or 3 to slice up. So slice them into the size that you want to eat them, which is pretty tiny. You also have to be careful about touching them because the hot oil from the peppers will get on your fingers, and then if you rub your eye, it stings quite a bit. So those are sliced up about how I want, about similar size to the onions and the bell peppers. I'm going to go wash my fingers before I accidentally rub my eye or something. That's messy. And I'm going to slice the chicken into the size portions I want for my fajitas. And you can do this, like I said, with raw chicken, and that one's kind of big for bites. So I'm gonna slice it a little more. And And then a few weeks back, I saw some really amazing looking portobello mushrooms at the grocery store, and I just wanted them. I have a thing about when I'm at the grocery store, I find some food that looks interesting, and then I bring it home and try to figure out how to use it. And I got the bright idea of adding some to my fajitas. I thought it was really good, added some different texture and flavor, and kind of cut down the amount of meat that you need, which is something that I know a lot of people are trying to do these days, is to eat less meat. Meat is not evil, but maybe we need a little bit less in our diet. So these are portobello mushrooms. That one got a little soggy, so I had to trim some of it off. This one looks still pretty good. And I'm just going to cut them into the same size pieces that I did the chicken. And this is going to make probably a little more volume than I would normally make, but my husband and I will eat this for probably the next 3 days, since there's just 2 of us. He only eats 1 meal a day here. All right. That goes up. Generally, you don't eat the stems on mushrooms. People do. A lot of recipes advise against it. So, and they tend to be a little tougher than the caps. So I generally leave them out. The piece is a little soggy. So get that out. All right. So now we are ready to start cooking. Move this over here. You can see my skillet. I should do it this way. That give you a better view. Yes. All right, and I have some avocado oil, so I think that probably will add an interesting flavor to the Mexican flavors of this dish. So I put a little bit of oil in the pan, and I'm going to let it get warm. Now I have this huge cutting board that a friend found for me. It's really awesome. Normally, before I had this cutting board, I would have 2 smaller boards that I would use. And I like to prepare my stuff ahead of time before I turn the stove on, so it's not. So everything's ready when I'm cooking. Because once you get cooking, sometimes you have to keep moving a little more quickly. While the oil is heating up, I'm going to try to drain these olives. Apparently, I didn't get the can all the way open. I do these group lessons on Tuesdays, but I also do individual lessons if you want some one-on-one time or have some specific questions. Just send me an email and I'd be happy to talk to you about that, set something up. I love sharing the things that I've learned in my journey to becoming a proficient. You can see it's starting to bubble a little bit. And since these things came out of the freezer and were a little wet, I'm going to go ahead and put them in there. Oh, and I forgot to get out the garlic, didn't I? Sorry, the garlic was hiding from me. I'm gonna put about 2 teaspoons worth of garlic in there. Now, if my chicken wasn't pre-cooked, then I'd want to put it in at this point, and you just let it sit here and saute until it was thoroughly cooked. But as it is, I'm going to get these a little bit all the way warm before I put my chicken in. If I had fresh jalapenos, I would put them in now as well. It's kind of dark coming out. I'm going to pull that a little closer so you can actually see my face and not be, I won't be in shadow. Okay, sorry about that. And as we're starting to get all the way warmed up and a little bit softened, so I'm going to add the chicken. A lot of that mushroom doesn't look that great. One trick that my son learned when he did the was a prep cook for a local food establishment was when you have your knife and you want to use it to scrape things off your cutting board, don't use the sharp side, use the dull side. Turn it over so it doesn't dull your knife, which seems perfectly logical, but not something I'd ever thought of. Learn things everywhere you go, and from anyone. All right, so I like to put my spices in kind of early in the cooking process so that they can cook a little into the food. I also like to use a lot of spices. So I added some Tex-Mex seasoning, some cumin. This is cilantro that I'm adding now. I'm gonna skip the cayenne. I usually put cayenne in here, but I'm gonna skip that since I use those chipotle peppers. That'll give it plenty of spice. Black pepper and salt kind of combine to enhance the flavors of everything else. Stir that around so everything is coated. I want those mushrooms to get softened up and cooked, and I want the chicken to finish cooking. I took it off the grill a little bit pink in the middle when I cooked it a couple weeks ago. And while that's getting warmed up, I'm going to prep my tortillas and the rest of my stuff to serve my fajitas. So I have my plates here. These are small, so typically we'll fix 2 at a time. And my beans are no longer drippy, so I'm going to put a few of those on the tortillas. And if you're serving a crowd, you would use a spoon to do this, but I just use my fingers so I have fewer dishes to deal with. Cheese. I like to put the cheese next to where the warm meat And mushrooms are gonna go so that it'll get slightly melty when I put the hot meat mixture on there. And then on top, I'll put olives and salsa and sour cream. So bring this back over here. Stir and check our meat and mushrooms. The veggies, I guess. It looks like everything's pretty well combined and warmed through. Got a lot of good seasoning on it. I guess I tested. Test one of the mushrooms, see how it tastes. Get it a little bit cooled off. Oh yeah, that's good. Okay, now I'm gonna turn the heat off. Since that spatula is kind of flat, it won't serve up very well. Get my tongs out. Goes against my fewer dishes rule, but sometimes you just gotta do it. Okay. So there's my fajitas. I'm going to get the other plate. I'm gonna pour just a smidge of salsa on there. And then pop a little bit of sour cream on top. Now, if I had some avocado, I'd put that on here too. And oh yeah, the black olives. And then I'd keep adding things until they're too stuffed to roll the fajitas up and eat them neatly, because that's just how I do it. Because I like all the innards, all the goodies on my. And there we go. So we have 20 minutes from start to finish. Enjoy. Let me know if you have any questions or need any further tips or would like to work together. My email list you can find to sign up at drcindysrecipes.com, and I'll send you a new recipe and a video every week.